welcome to Free Media. I'm Amber Duke.
And I'm Robby Soave.
Newly sworn in, President Donald Trump signed a slew of executive orders Monday evening, ranging from immigration.
President Trump, if cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
To America's withdrawal from the World Health Organization, a favorite of Robby's, I'm sure.
Going back to the World Health Organization, you were the president during COVID. Don't you see the importance of an organization like that to coordinate a global response?
Sure, I do, but not when you're being ripped off like we are by the World Health. World Health ripped us off. Everybody rips off the United States, and that's it. It's not going to happen anymore. Thank you very much, everybody.
And much more.
All the while signing the orders, President Trump took questions from reporters and even mocked Joe Biden for never having done anything of the sort.
Does Biden ever do news conferences like this? How many news conferences, Peter, has he done like this?
Like this?
None.
0.
And it would be 0 for the next infinity. For infinity, it would be 0.
Oh, how much fun are we having? So much fun. A bunch
You're
of
gonna
executive...
get sick of having fun.
Sick of having fun. A bunch of these executive orders, now, not a big fan of executive orders personally, but a lot of them were aimed at just rescinding the previous administration's executive orders. That's a fun little facet of how government works now, with Congress not really doing their job, the executive branch having more power, new administration comes in, you undo the whole things. Like we withdrew from the Paris Accords. Again. Trump had withdrawn from them, Biden goes back in, we pull out again. As you pointed out, I was happy to have the World Health Organization get a little middle finger, given that among other flaws, they ran cover for the Communist Party of China. Was their initial impulse at the beginning of COVID. It's not about health. It was about making apologies for Chinese communism. Some of the immigration executive orders are not things I necessarily agree with. And then there are things. There's a category of things that, well, like and we probably disagree on this. I don't want TikTok banned. Congress did ban it, and Biden signed the ban of it. So I don't think Trump should necessarily be able to not have it with such a clear action of Congress. Now, President Biden said he wasn't going to enforce it, and then the companies that sponsored the app were like, what do we do here? It's a weird situation where even some of the people who voted for the legislation have lost faith in enforcing it, but clearly there needs to be more actual legislation to change the policy if they don't want it to exist. And Rand Paul has proposed legislation to do just that.
I was initially confused by that as well. I was like, how does Trump get to just extend the grace period for the ban? But apparently it is a subset of the law that the executive has the opportunity to have that 90-day extension, which is what the EO was aimed at. But I'm sure we disagree on. I'm sure we've argued about it on this show before. But two of the other categories that I found really interesting in the initial EOs that he signed that were the priorities for his administration, a lot of them related to energy production in the United States, rescinding a lot of the federal gas drilling bans that Biden had put out, and then also ending the effective electrical vehicle mandate, because the thing that Biden claimed wasn't an EV mandate effectively was, because it provided such strict regulations on auto manufacturers in terms of the carbon emissions from vehicles that they basically had no choice but to only manufacture EVs by 2035 or something like that. So he wiped that out. And then there was the executive order that enshrined sex as the category, not gender, for discrimination legislation and regulations. So we're not doing that gender identity gets you any special privileges in the federal government or anything related to federal law. It is biological sex only, we're doing truth again. We are happy to have truth back in this country.
Yeah, I can't get myself worked up too much about like what government forms say, although when there's way too many options, it's annoying to scroll through them. I am glad to have, DEI mandates purged from the federal workforce. Private companies can do whatever they want. We can make fun of them for doing it if it's stupid. I don't think they should be forbidden to do DEI. I just think actually none of them will choose to do it once it's no longer being forced on them by the government. Same with a lot of censorship. He did a executive order that I think is great. It's actually probably my favorite of these, instructing the federal workforce, federal agencies, that it is no longer appropriate. I mean, it never was appropriate, but now we're making it very clear it's not appropriate to bully social media companies into taking down speech. So that was very welcome to see. And yes, the mandate to do more energy production is going to have a really favorable impact on the economy and on prices and all of that. So that was good to see. Now, it'd be wonderful to get to a place where Congress is actually doing its job and is legislating and is finding ways to make it easier to work and to start a business and to contribute to the health of the economy and the success of the American project without it just having to be by the whim of the executive, and then you get it undone every 4 years. But sadly, that is not where we are.
I also appreciated just the way that Trump signed the executive orders, because in addition to this White House signing, he also signed a bunch at his rally at Capital One Arena, which was sort of like a little benefit to the people who did fly to D.C. And even though the inauguration was moved into the Capitol Rotunda.
Which, thank God it was.
I know.
It was.
It was very cold.
It was very cold.
And we interviewed a bunch of the Trump supporters who came into town over at the Daily Caller, and they were like, we don't actually believe it was the bad weather. We believe it was the security anyway. So we're happy. We're happy that our guy's getting protected. If that's what it takes, we'll go and wait in line outside.
I think it was the weather. I mean, the security was very, very tight as well. Both
was.
The weather and the security in the city have been incredibly annoying for the last 2 days, but it was, I think, even just the optics of the day of inauguration, it was a pretty well-produced thing, very exciting for supporters of the president. So many, both his selections for his cabinet, and then media supporters, and then all these tech people up there, sending a sign that hopefully, in my view, the administration will be really focused on unleashing American innovation and potential. And to the extent Elon-type people are having an influence, Donald Trump had the line about planting the American flag on Mars, right? That's going to be and it's not going to be or at least I hope it's not, because Donald Trump did talk about not starting new wars. Now, I think it can be difficult to square that with maybe we would send troops into Mexico, or maybe we would invade Greenland, or maybe we would reconquer the Panama Canal. I hope we don't do any of that. We're going to, I think the goal, what I'm hoping, is to extend American economic power into areas where it is welcome, with other countries and other people who want to freely exchange with us and participate in that, and be on a mutually beneficial program of countering authoritarianism elsewhere in the globe, not militarily. We don't want to fight. We want to grow and succeed economically, and we want the regulatory environment of the country changed to allow that to happen. That's what I hope we're getting out of Trump.
One point you hit on earlier, too, that I just want to underscore is the fact that American energy dominance brings prices down, because this was a huge point of contention on the campaign trail, where when Trump was asked about how he was going to fight inflation, his answer was drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
And The Economist and the mainstream media pundits could not wrap their heads around how this could possibly be the case, how these two issues were connected. It's like, well, if you reduce energy costs and make it more abundant and plentiful and easy to produce, then you have all of these related industries that get cheaper, whether it's transportation, shipping, food production, all of these things get cheaper, which does bring prices down. And if there's one other thing we learned from Inauguration Day is that this is a Trump administration that is incredibly prepared, which is a complete 180 from 2016. The fact that he had his cabinet officials ready to go, basically right after the election, he started announcing them by the dozens. He had these 200 plus executive orders ready to go. The January 6 pardons, which he signed late on Monday night, I believe, they have clearly been sort of hunkered down at Mar-a-Lago, getting things ready to go.
I guess we should talk about that briefly since you mentioned it. Look, I would not have blanket pardoned all of them. That includes people who, it's not the majority of them. I think it's roughly 1/3 of them had committed violent crimes, including against the police. Now look, I'm a libertarian and criminal justice related person, so I think finding ways to shorten sentences or let people out of prison, it costs us all money to keep people in prison, is broadly speaking a good thing. I absolutely think the sentences for the people, quote, deemed the leaders, the Enrique Tarrio or whatever, got 20 years was insane because prosecutors, A, punished him for not taking a plea deal and wanting to actually go to trial. You pay a penalty for that, and then said it was terrorism. He got a terrorism penalty. I think what happened on January 6th was very bad. I think it is in no way, shape, or form in the same conversation as 9/11, but that's the way it was charged. So I'm totally fine to revise those. And then people who engage in trespassing or defile people's offices, yeah, you should get some kind of sentence. Even like the shaman guy was in solitary confinement for like 3 years. I don't know, that seems kind of excessive. So I was totally on board with reviewing them. I still wish it had been on a case-by-case basis instead of just the whole thing.
Like some commutations, some pardons. Yeah, I hear you on that.
Depending on how much time each of them had served. But that's not what they decided, and here we are. We'll have more free media right after this. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep watching.